We're live. Let's see. Are we live? There we are. We are live. Okay. Hey, listen. All right, there we go. I got everything fixed there. Hey, no countdown, Ray. So I wasn't able to launch into it, but I will anyway. Boys, girls, and whatever you identify tonight. And Ray, even if you're a person, an adult that identifies as a toddler and eats applesauce out of one of those little pouches that they give kids and sucks on it, not
Oh
because you
dear.
like the applesauce, but because you think you might have a toe fetish and you're a little too scared to suck real toes, so you suck on the applesauce pouch. If you're one of those people, we're here for you tonight. Okay. And so tonight is Lawn Care Help Desk. We take all comers, literally and well, figuratively too. And listen, so Matt is off again tonight. He is out with family. I think he's in Florida here this weekend for Memorial Day weekend with the folks and all that
Memorial
kind of
Day,
stuff.
yeah.
So you've got myself, who just got back from a little Memorial Day jaunt myself. Ray may or may not have been, will be, or is in the pool right now, and God bless him for doing so. And so, yeah, we're going to sit here and keep it for. Listen, I know how it works, Ray. I know how it goes. All right, so listen, we're going to go at this for about an hour. We will take all of your questions, warm season, cool season, any season, really don't care. Life questions. We're right now we're in 3 different time zones. J Pink is in a completely different time zone. I will not mention where. Ray is in Hawaii, and I am here in sunny but cool, Ray. Very cool, Ohio. I think the high temperature here today was barely 70 degrees, which is quite unseasonable for this time of year. So not a lot of pool time here
I am
in the
mildly
Midwest.
envious, Ryan. I am mildly envious. Just putting it out
I,
there.
it needs to be, well, since you have 12 months of great growing weather, as some would say, Ray. Maybe we'll talk about that guy for a little bit. We'll get into that here in a little bit. Okay.
Yeah. There's covering.
There is definitely there's some smoke there and some fire. Um we've got questions that'll be rolling in, and J Pink cannot talk, but he can talk to us via chat. J Pink, if I didn't clear it up with you before we went on, we do have some mailbag here. And we're gonna read this first one here. All right. This is it's a long motherfucker. Okay. Here we go. This is Lawn Flip, and he says, "Hi there, Lawn Flip here. I received a call from a potential client that asked me to take a look at his struggling Bermuda grass here in Oklahoma City, Ray. I've made 2 visits, once in April and once again today. I'm going to assume this is recent. The front yard looks mostly dead with heavy thatch. The green that is there is very sparse. The back lawn looks fine and is in a similar growing condition. The guy said that the area in question was lush going into the fall. He's lived there a long time and seemed confident in that. I've seen similar cases of drought stress from the previous season, but this doesn't appear to be one of them. On my initial visit, I said it would be fine with fertilization, warmer temps, and water. Fast forward to now, and there has not been much change. I know we are still not in prime growing season yet, but something is definitely seems off with this one. He's got some quick facts here. All right. Partial shade in the front from trees, 4 to 5 treatments last season from a local big company, likely pre-emergent and 1 fertilizer. He had just applied Scott's Weed and Feed late summer, early fall. He also had just recently applied Triple 13 at 1 pound of N. And he said Lawn Flip pulled some soil cores today for testing and advised raking up the dead debris. All right, so his questions are 1, what do you think is going on? Seems like it could be due to something being applied to the lawn since the back lawn is fine, is in similar light conditions. Let's start there, Ray. I would love to know what direction the front of this house faces. Wouldn't you, Ray?
I would too. I
Did we
also
lose
would
Ray?
love to know how much
Oh,
of that weed
oh,
and feed
okay. Here,
was
go ahead.
applied. Yeah, how much of that
Yeah, I think
weed and
that's a
feed was
question
applied,
here.
Ryan? Because Yeah, because here's why, Ryan. Every single warm season
There we
lawn
go.
I've known of that got highly fertilized in the fall going into winter, not so good things have happened to it because it was in an excessive state of growth.
Hmm.
You know?
You know, yeah. So the house faces to the south. Okay. North is in the backyard.
Hmm.
And my initial concern here was winter kill, Ray. And especially with being lush going to
Yep.
winter, and the fact that
Hmm.
uh, you're not doing yourselves any favors hitting it with the weed and feed that late in the year. Not that that's going to like push it over the edge and be the kill shot here, but
It
if
don't
you're
help.
at this point now, Spencer,
Hmm.
yeah, and there's nothing there yet. Yeah, that's not good. So do we have, is this with this? Here's the video. Okay. Oh, all right. So J Pink, can you throw the video up and play that? Okay. God, he knew we were going to ask that question. Gets me hard.
That's
Yeah.
facing west, facing north. You got a little bit of green, not much. There's just lots of dead thatch.
Wow. Destroyed. Absolutely destroyed, Ryan.
Just not a whole lot of green.
Okay. Uh, it's not good. So what was striking about the video though, Ray, is that all the other
Yeah.
lawns right around there looked
Huh?
looked okay. There was nothing there that would lead me to believe that um that winter kill would have such a huge impact on just this guy's lawn. Like that doesn't happen like that. Okay. It stopped at the property line. Okay. Um, winter kill does not have the deed to the property. And so therefore I gotta go back and I think you might be spot on here. What would happen, Ray, in Oklahoma City? And
Yeah.
they had a fairly warm and dry fall from what I remember. What would happen in a case like that as Bermuda is maybe having the growing season lengthened and you go out there almost at the end of it. There's probably still green grass out there and you're applying weed and feed. What are the challenges there, and how influential is the rate of that particular product at that time on Bermuda grass?
Well, what you got in most weeding feeds is a combination of slow release and fast release nitrogen, right? That's the
Mm-hmm.
usual component. And
Okay.
depending on which brand of weeding feed you got, you've got varying rates of 2,4-D, MCPP, maybe some dicamba in it. And you're basically making an application of something that is marginally tolerated by the Bermuda to begin with. And you're making it at a time when I consider the Bermuda actually very vulnerable because
Mm.
it's in that full transition period, Ryan. It's in it. It's at a time when, if you know what's good for you, you basically stop applying stuff to Bermuda 60 days before frost.
That's fair. Okay. And so, old boy here, it seems like he still has some weeds popping up there. And I saw a couple winter annuals. I didn't see what else he had out there per se, but yeah, it seems like whatever program was run by his previous applicator, he wasn't happy with it. Number one, because he decided to go out there and do this stuff himself, and then obviously coming out this year. So, for Spencer, his follow up questions here. Go back to this here, and it says, "Can this recover if the debris is removed and with proper fertilization of water, or is reestablishment more realistic? I feel like the trees may limit the grow in, and it gets a fair amount of sun from the morning until about 1 p.m. Based on what I saw in that video and what I see of the pictures, like the Google Street View shot, I'm not worried about those trees whatsoever. Those are fairly small, nothing that's going to cause any huge amount of damage. Now again, they're just starting to leaf out. Yeah, that doesn't bother me so much. The other thing I'll say here too, Spencer, is that you're going to be in a situation here pretty quick. I mean, it's the 25th of May as we tape this, and you got about a month maybe to figure this out. Meaning that if you're going to reestablish it, then, and I don't know how you're going to do that. If you're going to sod it, if you're going to seed it, if you're going to sprig it, whatever you're going to do, obviously sod is the most costly, but it's offering you the longest window. But if you're talking about seeding, with a common type, if you're sprigging it with a vegetative type, like you got to get a move on with that shit here pretty quick to get it fully established and have it dialed and locked in, before it starts to slow down and go dormant. So I think what you ought to do there is, one, start getting a plan together and a price and start wrapping the customer's head around, hey, listen, we're going to give this about 2 weeks. And if we see no meaningful progress, and Ray, again, with watering and with the 13 that old boy just put out, I mean, we're either going to see something or we're going to see nothing.
Yeah, and it's either going to be
see nothing,
good growth, or it's going to be dead. One of the two, right?
Yeah.
And if you see nothing out of water and 13, I would pull the trigger and plan on either reseeding or resprigging.
Look at all these other ones.
Yeah.
Everything looks good except for this one. Yeah,
and
I feel bad
and that is because I also have no idea as to what the previous company was applying to the lawn either. I have no idea of that, and it couldn't have been anything good for that Bermuda grass if it causes that kind of damage, because that kind of leads me to think, were applications made to this lawn that not only failed to control the weeds, but also caused some setback of the Bermuda? Those are questions that I have.
I think
I have more questions than answers at this point.
I think we've pushed past the whole delayed green up thing, and again, we're gonna know in the next 2 weeks. I think that you're gonna need to have an opportunity to quote this guy for a reestablishment and start over. Let's see. He had one more of attached video. Blah 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 blah. Yep. All right. So Spencer, here's the game plan. Is I don't think I'd waste any more time fertilizing anything else. I think with what's out there, you should have enough to go on. Let's look at the upcoming weather. Oh, Ray. Waterboy Joe said it's cold as blue balls in the Philadelphia area right now. And it stands to reason it's also cold as blue balls in Oklahoma City too. They do not get above 80 until next Saturday. So, yeah.
Whoa.
Yeah. So that's going to make it even more challenging because by the time you're needing to make a call, you're going to have very limited visibility into how this is doing. So, Spencer, here's what I'll say: is that you're trending towards nights in the 60s starting on Friday of next week, and you're starting to get into the 80s during the day. Nighttime temperatures are probably more critical, in my view, to Bermuda grass growth. You got to have those nights stay above 60, and especially if you get above 65, you're going to be cooking with gas. So, if come the what would that be? The 9th, 8th, like the 7th, 8th of June. If you haven't seen market growth, and I'm talking like, that yard hasn't filled into like at least 25 to 40%.
Yeah,
it's over. It's done. You're pulling the curtains on this. So now is the time to prepare your plan, talk with the client, and say, this is our drop dead date. If nothing happens, you can do this by yourself, or I'll do it for you, but we're going to do it my way. And whatever weed feed you have left in the barn, throw it away. Give it to a small child, let them take it home with them, and don't worry or concern yourself with what they do with it. That's one way of doing it. All right. So, Spencer, that's the game plan. Get ready, get set, and I'm sorry. Okay. Colin has written in. Gentlemen, with all the expertise here, I'm hoping that you can help me figure out what I need to do this year. I'm in New Jersey. He's your neighbor, Joe, with cool season grass, turf type tall fescue, Kentucky bluegrass, and ryegrass. I have a lot of brown spots in lawn. The 7 years I've been at this house, I did probably only one app of Scott's fungicide a few years back and have not continued. I'm not sure if it's fungus or not. It seems to mostly be on the rye, maybe. I've dethatched before and overseeded. Not sure where to go now. Last year, used Pete's Cool Season Turf Type Tall Fescue and KBG Mix. Also, I do have some grubs. I don't think I have a ton. I have some more pictures I can attach. Let's look this at. Murph. Oh, man. Okay. Tell you, this one photo here, the close-up kind of looks like some dollar spot out there.
Yep.
Huh. Okay.
Possible.
So, Murph, I mean, oof, hard to. Brent says red thread. Maybe. I mean, okay, so if it's red thread or if it's dollar spot, Brent, what do those two things tell you? This shit's under fertilized. Okay. And Murph, I'm not accusing you here of anything, but I'm going to say that before you start going down the road of fungicides and whatnot, we want to make sure that we get all the basics right. Okay. So I don't know what your fertility plan looks like, how often you're applying, because, overall, this wider angle photo of the lawn from the roof, which, really is just a ladder elevated drone. Or be careful up there. Hopefully you're tethered in. But to take that photo and look at that angle of the lawn, it doesn't look terrible, Ray. I mean, I see something
doesn't look terrible
here that
to me. I see a yellow cast.
Looks hungry,
Brian.
It looks hungry.
Yeah,
it looks hungry.
Yeah, there's a yellow cast to it, and the solution to a hungry lawn is NPK and S.
Uh-huh. Yeah, so I'm thinking here with Murph, before we answer this question, Murph, and I hate to shirk this off, but I would sure love to see, if you have a soil test, great. If you don't, no big deal. And if you have a game plan for your fertilizer that you followed the last year or so, don't need to go back all the way into the annals and, look at everything. But if you have something for us to go on, that would certainly help us make some better recommendations on what to do with your lawn, because I personally see one where I'm suspect that the basics are being, handled the right way. Not a criticism, just want to make sure things are in order, right? So before we prescribe you a liver transplant, let's check out the bar, at the house. What are you drinking? What are you working on there? Is everything in order or not? So you'll do that. I'd certainly appreciate it, and so would Ray, because we want to dive in and make sure we get you a good answer. Phew. Murph, don't go up on the roof like that, man. It scares me. The shit scares me. All right. Here, I've got one. I need to send the picture though to Jay Pink, because Ray, I got this question the other day and I provided an answer, but I wanted to get your feedback too, because how do I forward this to there? Okay. And then I'll go ahead and this. All right, this question comes to us from Brady over in Ohio. Brady says, hey, I wanted to reach out and get your opinions on a mixing system. As you know, we run steel green sprayers on all of our lawn applications. As of right now, we do not do a bulk mix in the morning. We just mix on site when the steel green sprayer runs empty. Round run, we ran all liquid and we mix in a 5-gallon bucket and then pour into the steel green sprayer. So like think prodiamine, Ray, like something like that.
Yeah.
Would like to make this faster and less messy. Do you know of any type of companies or systems out there that you would recommend? I did attach a mixing system that I've seen and wanted to know about its use. Okay, so he's talking about premix systems and not so much like in a big giant nurse tank, right? But more of one here. Let me see. Is this coming through? Yep. Okay. More like one of these that's got an inductor on it, Ray, and you can hook it up either and just spill right out of it. I've seen people plumb these into larger holding tanks. Yes, sir.
I have to stop people right here, because you see this mixing system? This is designed for very large tanks. I'm talking 300 to thousands of gallons. This is way too much to fill a steel green tank. This is way too much, Ryan. And
Really?
the reason why this is way too much is, Ryan, do you know what the actual working rate is on this mixing system? We're talking 20 to 50 gallons of flow per minute.
Yeah.
Okay, we're talking that much flow, Ryan. This is a lot. I mean, and I would probably say, if I were looking at filling a 50-gallon tank or so, like what's found on the steel greens, I wouldn't use this. I wouldn't use this because this is just way too big. Because it even says in the picture, mixing areas where high flow water supply is available. 50 gallons per minute, Ryan. That's because you know what the piping size is on this mixing system. Everything is 1.5 inch piping.
Yeah, probably gonna say it's probably 1.5 inches. So it's got to drive a tanker truck down the road. You know.
Yeah. And I would also tell you that, when people ask me what they can do to make things that they're doing even faster, I have an opposite question for them, Ryan. I asked them.
What's that?
I asked them, how many deadbeat, non-paying, slow-paying, or otherwise pain-in-the-ass customers you have that you can afford to cut, so that you're not working harder, you're working smarter, and you're getting paid for what you're worth, instead of having to hurry through your day.
I would agree, and I always got a little bit leery about like nutrients. Yeah, I would be okay with that. What were you gonna say, Ray?
Because for me, it sounds to me like our man here is overscheduled and he's got more work than what he can comfortably handle. That's my impression of it. Yes,
I don't know if
Ryan,
it's that. I mean,
that is my impression.
I know Brady. I think that might be the impression. I know Brady and his operations pretty well. I'll say this. I think this is, I would bet, and I would put words in his mouth, but I will bet that this is more of an instance of trying to not only be efficient. Yes, that helps, but more to the point about being consistent, right? And by mixing and loading bigger batches, right, you can ensure some of that. And by using good mixing equipment,
you can also create
you
a
can
problem
ensure that
because
everything's. You can.
yeah, but you can also create a problem because prodiamine doesn't like to stay in suspension. Prodiamine is a chemical that doesn't like to stay in suspension, and when you do introduce it into water, what happens is that the active ingredient, once it's introduced into water, then likes to do another thing in the tank, and that is crystallize into large, non-resuspendable masses. So if I were mixing prodiamine, I would continue to mix only what I needed for each lawn and have no leftovers. And as long as I have prodiamine in a tank of water, I have agitation or something equivalent going in that tank at all times so that it don't have a chance to settle. Because yeah, I've sprayed my share of prodiamine, and I pride myself on not having a cake of prodiamine at the bottom of my sprayer.
Here's one thing, and I know that it's got, you can sit there and leave on and bypass the tank and suck stuff through and yada 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 yada. The thing I don't know, and I would want to test on a premix system that would go into a steel green tank, something similar, right? Picking on steel green here, one that would go into a tank that doesn't have limitations. Top answer you mentioned sprayers, right? And so you go look at the inside of on a Toro Multi-Pro or a John Deere 2-pound sprayer or a Smithco or something like that. Like those things have big boy agitations that keep it moving at all times. And my experience on the steel green, I've got hours working with it directly, operating it, seeing it with I don't know that the agitation system is that robust. I think it's robust enough for what you ask it to do, which is typically in a lawn care setting, hey, you're going to mix in, some herbicides, maybe some insecticides, some fungicides, and you're spraying, stuff that isn't going to be a huge issue, right? To keep mixed up. And then you're sloshing the tank around and this and that. I get all that. But I don't know, Brady. I think it's an expensive thing to try to get started with. I think honestly, if I was going to do it, Pacer pump ag chemical. Let me see if I can find this bad boy. Oh yeah, Agri Supply. Look at this son bitch. She's gone up a little bit in price, but so J Pink put this up. Where's J Pink? We were joking earlier and saying that J Pink says he's at my mom's house. Please fold my laundry when you're done, J Pink, and then you can leave. But no, so I just sent over this thing. So Ray, here's an idea for Brady to give a shot. Don't sign up for the email. If you do, put Ron Henry's email address because he needs help. So one of these are designed for ag chemical specifically. It's a little Honda engine with a centrifugal pump, right? And you get this and you get a tote. and for about maybe another $100, you can plumb this whole sumbitch together and have a pretty effective premix tank with very little issues, right? And so try that out first, maybe, Brady, if spend some money. And one of these pumps is not a bad thing to have on hand, because if you ever need to pump something out, whether it's a steel green or you get a bigger tank or something like that, absolutely worth it. And there's ones that are less robust than this that you can get, but I find this to be a solid pump. Never had any issues with it. Everything's good on it. So again, take it for what it's worth. I would try to make your own, because, as Ray said, that doesn't require the same volume of water, right, that you're talking about. So that and a tote, or hell, even get a 55-gallon drum, and you can make that all work, right? Some cam lock fittings, some hose, pretty good. Jay Pink says he brought his t-shirt folder to my mom's house. What's her name? Okay, never mind. That's mean. All right. Let's go and see another question here. Jesus, we're really off the rails here. That took me. I said t-shirt folder, not sandwich maker. All right, Jack wants to know, is A-list turf still the one to look for low inputs, looking specifically at cool season in Minnesota? So yeah, Jack, A-list is probably your best bet. Their protocols are pretty, I think they're very, very stout in terms of being able to prove and or disprove which particular varieties perform best in a low input, sustainable, quote unquote, approach, right? That's their words, not mine. But yeah, if you're looking at those for the cultivars, I think you're going to find ones that perform better than others. I mean, and here's the other thing too, is that you can look at this two ways. To enter into A-list, a company has to pay to have their cultivars evaluated. Okay, and so some will say that, well, you're just paying to play, like, oh, whatever. Well, here's the thing: is like the data is the data, and they don't give a shit, right? Like that's the thing, is that they have to cover their cost of administering all those tests across many different sites, yada yada yada. And like their point is, like, you better be sure about this if you're going to put that there's a good shot that it's going to meet our criteria, right, in terms of low input and things like that. So Ray, I don't know that there's any. I don't think there's just any warm season. I can't remember if there is or not, but regardless, there is not. So regardless, the whole point of this, Ray, is when you say low input, it's more along the lines of they'll get it established and then they'll kind of pull back drastically on water, fertility, things like that, and just kind of see how things do naturally. And it's more to evaluate, can these different cultivars perform at a high enough level given low input, and then compare them next to those same ones high input in like an NTEP or something like that, and you get some good crossover and some good varieties in there. So yeah, Jack, if you're messing around with it, take a look at those, and you can't go wrong, pretty much. But it's pretty easy when you look at those. That's it for mailbag. Okay, I think there was a few that came in, J Pink, over the chat, and I will look and see if I've got any more that have come into me. I thought there was one more. Oh, Londingo wants to know, does anybody know how I can source PoaCure? It's not approved for home lawns. Well, Londingo, didn't have to type all that out because you just answered your own goddamn question. It's not labeled for home lawns. And honestly, Ray, I think that if homeowners got their hands on this stuff, that it would be very akin to the very, very, very early adopters that were going through. Like, so what's interesting about the trials for this product, Ray, is that you had to pay to be a part of it, right? And so people and trying to get on the list, if you will, and start doing this stuff. And you had a bunch of golf courses that sprayed this stuff and then quickly found out, hey, we thought we've got 10, 15, maybe 20% of POA. Well, actually, when you spray this stuff that kills all the POA, turns out we've got like 45, 50, maybe even 55% POA, Ray. Oops. So I think that's, one of the very like low-hanging fruit reasons why it's not, because there's a lot of carnage that you can cause. So, I don't know the use case that you would want to use something like this in a home lawn, unless like you're like mono stand and you got everything else dialed in and everything else is awesome except for you just hammered with POA. Then maybe I could see it, but I don't know. So Londingo, no, there is no way to get it unless you're doing something illegal. And the last person that we knew that illegally obtained this is already an admitted felon. Looking at you, Jeffrey Mendoza, Yardbro. By the way, if you're not familiar with Yardbro, don't look up his YouTube channel. Highly encourage you to type into your web browser there, whatever you're working with, right? Chrome, Firefox, Opera, Netscape Navigator. I don't give a shit. Just go ahead and type it in for me. www.yardbra. That's YARDBRAAH.com and check it out. Okay. Let's see here. Ray, are you back? Can you hear us? Oh, he's still out. Okay. He's coming back, he says. I think he's back. Ray, can you hear us? Walk towards the light, please. Maybe. Ray. Gosh. Okay. Jeremiah Kendrick wants to know, have you guys ever used Canvastat or Shortstop growth regulator? Active ingredient Shortstop is paclobutrazol. Have you ever used? Yeah, I mean, on so Shortstop is and I believe Canvastat, just based on the name of it, is used for woody ornamentals and trees, right? So paclobutrazol is used a lot in tree and shrub, but it's also used in turf grass. So Jeremiah, if you're still in, are you talking about using this on turf or are you talking about using this on landscape plants? Give us some answers. We'll give you some too. Net Payer says, could Ray tell us again what to remove Xterra stains from concrete? I don't know what Ray had recommended. Or see if I got this real quick. Let's see here. Let me give you this link here, J Pink. Oh, that's a long ass link. Both, Jeremiah says. Okay, perfect. Give you 1 second here. Okay, perfect. All right. So we'll answer Jeremiah's question here first. So Jeremiah says both, using those on trees and turf. So Jeremiah, if you're going to use it on turf, you would want to use T-Pack or Trim-It or something like that for that particular purpose. Again, Shortstop's not labeled for it. They're in mess with rates. I'm not going to tell you how to do that or why, whatever. But using Paclo on tree and shrub is a highly effective tool, right? If you're using it in the right application with the right plant, you can growth for a period of up to like 2 years, basically. So real good on boxwoods, arborvitae, things like that. I don't know if you're talking about using it like on a more mature tree or a deciduous tree, but You want to be really careful about application method and how you're putting it in there. So if you're going to do it with injection, right? Foliar sprays only last 1 year, right? So some plant material it's harder to get an injection into, whether it's in flower bed, something like that. So take that for what it's worth. But on turf, paclobutrazol is can be really harsh on certain turf types, and particularly even more specifically certain cultivars. So if you'll also tell us what type of turf you're planning on using on, that would also be helpful too. Oh, he's thinking about using on Bermuda. There you go. Sorry, I just saw it in the chat. So using shortstop on Bermuda, Paclo and Bermuda can do some weird things. It's a different class of growth regulator than what T-Nex is, right? So a lot of people are comfortable with using T-Nex, right, or Trinex and Pac-Ethyl on turf. I'd caution you with using Paclo out there. Sick Oaks using Basil Drench. Okay, cool. Totally fine to use that. But on Bermuda grass specifically, just be prepared that even at low rates, you're going to see some weird stuff on it. And with that 22.49 AI on the shortstop, down in your rates is going to be even more important too, because you're at a higher AI. All right, J Pink, throw that link back up real quick, if you would. So I don't know what Ray has recommended. I have used this product to get Exteris and all sorts of other different pigments off of concrete, and it's worked out pretty darn well. And so try this out. Other thing I like about this stuff is that it will not kill grass. So you can get this in a ready to use like spray bottle, or you can get it in the concentrate. But it's been awesome to use and have had very, very good luck with that. So give it a shot, try it out, and we'll see what we can find out if Ray is able to reconnect what specifically he was recommending. Rob is out there asking, is there a starter fertilizer for centipede grass? Well, Rob, the thing we got to watch out for is potassium chloride, obviously, and trying to find one that doesn't have one in there. Let's see. How about now, J Pink? All better? Back. All right. Wonderful. Got it. All right. Sorry about that. See, we're all having problems. This is because we're on different time zones. People are asking us questions. It's live fire. We get it all. Okay. So I was not muted, Grass Thief. All right. I'm dumb. I'm not that dumb. All right. So back to who asked that question? Rob. Rob, the starter for the centipede. Obviously, we want to avoid potassium chloride there. Or do you have a new centipede lawn? Like, what are we looking for? Why are we looking for starter in the first place? Just curious of where that idea or thought came from in your head. You let me know that, and we'll dive in a little bit further on that. All right. While we're doing that, I've got one more question here. I'm trying to dig up. Ray is disconnected. We're trying. Seeing what we can do here. Where's this at? Hang on here. Okay. I don't want to. Well, I'll put this out there. I'll just read the question. So, this is from a person that did some winter kill on Bermuda grass, specifically vegetated Bermuda grass in the Midwest. And his question is: when I go to plug, is there anything wrong with using winter kill plugs to fill in the holes where I harvested from good performing areas, right? That are healthy, right? And he just goes on to say, it's been a really strange spring here, cooler way longer than normal, and it's been a very wet spring. Growing quality turf here is so frustrating. So he's in a part of the country that they can grow either they're very much in the transition zone, and he could be growing tall fescue or something like that, or he could be growing Bermuda grass. And so he's chosen to grow Bermuda grass, and got dinged up. That happens. It's no fault of his in the way that he's grown grass or anything like that. But I went on to say to him is that, yeah, absolutely. Like, taking from good, healthy performing areas, it seems kind of like, like it'd be an easy thing to do. Or if you're in the South, you wouldn't think twice about doing something like that. But, for somebody that's fairly new to the game here the last several years, getting them dialed in on that. But I will say that a lot of uncovered, unprotected areas on vegetated Bermuda across the Midwest has been challenging. We've had some here in certain spots. Tahoma, Iron Cutter didn't really spare one certain grass over the other, so definitely a more challenging spring. Not the worst that we've had, but so yeah, I feel this gentleman's pain, and we're doing some of the same things on the Bermuda grass that we're managing too. So take it. All right. J Pink, can they hear me? Yes or no? He says he can hear me. So if y'all can't hear me, sorry. And he says if you can't hear me, then you can suck it. That might be hard because he's not in the United States right now. Okay. All right. Last things last, before we wrap up here, because Ray is having some difficulty coming in. We're gonna do a show, and I want to invite this gentleman on. There's a gentleman in the lawn care Discord, lawn care subreddit, and he was on the Discord for a minute too. That went by the name Niles and Stuff. If you're familiar with this person, and you have the means to reach out, please do. There was some falling out. There was some issues or something within the lawn care subreddit community. I don't know all the details other than people arguing and so on and so forth. And I'd like to learn more about that and just this gentleman's, I assume gentleman, pardon me, but this guy's approach to growing grass, because it looks like he's trying to start a new community and maybe take a little bit different tact on like what the lawn care subreddit is and all that kind of stuff. So would love to hear this person out. I know that Matt feels the same way. I know Ray feels the same way. And J Pink's not even in this country, so he's going to feel whatever the fuck we tell him. I'm kidding. But no, for real. If anybody has the means, watches this either live or watches this after the fact and can get this message to him, certainly would love to have him on. We can disguise voices or faces. We've got the means to do that. We've done it before, as a matter of fact. So if he would choose to do that in a more anonymous format, we certainly would appreciate that and can understand. But let's get him on there and let's see here. I can't tell you the things that J Pink is typing right now. Okay. The question here, did we answer Rob? Is there a starter fertilizer for centipede? I just asked Rob if there was a reason for this in particular, right? Trying to find starter fertilizer without new sod install. Um, Rob, let's see if we can find this real quick. And you're gonna have trouble. Hang on a second here. How big of a bag is this, son of a bitch? Does it tell you? Okay. Rob, this is not exactly what I'd buy and where I'd buy it from. But if you can hunt down some MAP, monoammonium phosphate, put that down. You don't need a lot of N. And really, the P, you don't want to overdo this. I would put this down at maybe 2 pounds of actual product per 1,000 square feet, no more. And that should be all the phosphates you're going to need for a good long while, and a quick and very, very small shot of nitrogen. Takes the whole potassium thing off the table, that you're going to screw that up, mess that up. And if you need to add it in later, you can get some sulfate of potash 0050 and add that back in later. But it's not going to be a huge limiting factor right out of the gate. Try and find some of this grain elevator. You may even find it at a site Gulf Supply House or something like that. So take a look at that. See if you can hunt down. If you can't find it, just hit us up on the Discord. And if you're wondering, hey, what's this Discord? How do I get onto there? Do they have those applesauce pouches that this guy talked about at the top of the show? Well, we just might, folks. Okay. But you have to come check us out. www.patreon.com/burn and return. Get on there. And really, we used to say it's the price of an airport beer. Airport beer's got to be at least 2x the cost of what we have, because you know what? Inflation has not hit our Patreon, because we're all about giving you what you want as cheap as we possibly can. And well, maybe not everything that you want as cheap as you possibly can, but you get the drift. Okay. So with that, check us out over there. Check us out on the Discord. And with no further questions right now, we're going to shut it down for tonight. Ray is on his way out. I'm on my way out. Matt's already out, and J Pink's not even on the goddamn continent. But you know what? We'll see you back here next week. Same time, same place for the same thing. We love you all. Bye.